everyone for joining us today and in our kind of continuing educational series of our Lunch and Learns hosted by Happy Wellness Group. We are going to, so first of all, just introduce myself. I'm Peter Darrow, managing partner of Happy Wellness Group. We are an investment group and advisory focused on the wellness space broadly, which whether it's health tech, CPG, longevity, fitness, nutrition, you name it. Pretty broad umbrella. We run the venture arm of Craft Capital, which is a boutique investment bank here in New York, and we manage our own institutional syndicate composed of angels, VCs, family offices that we work with. Our ultimate goal is to leverage our domain expertise and ecosystem to drive companies toward a successful exit. That is our goal. I have 9 other partners and several advisors, and we do a lot of events. We also have our upcoming demo day, which I'll share a little bit more about later. And so we're really excited to present this topic on health tech and this theme, which is obviously very topical and very important. And so we have 3 panelists here, which I'm going to introduce and really appreciate their expertise and thought leadership. So we have Shannon Bean of CEI Ventures. Shannon, maybe if you just want to say hello and share a little bit about yourself and your fund.
Yes, absolutely, Peter. Thanks for having me. It's great to be with Brian and Austin. I'm really looking forward to the conversation. I'm Shannon Bean, principal with CEI Ventures. We're an impact venture capital firm that's dedicated to social and environmental impact investing. We've been around for over 32 years, invested in over 75 companies across 5 funds and a sidecar fund. We typically come in at the seed stage. Our minimum check size is 500,000, and then we invest up to 2.5 million Series B. We're industry agnostic, so we look at everything, including health tech. My background is in the healthcare life sciences arena. Really big believer in precision health, so really looking forward to highlighting some of the thoughts in the space. We're a for-profit to a non-for-profit CDFI, CEI, which is Coastal Enterprises, Inc., has been around for over 48 years, was founded by Ron Phillips after the Civil Rights Movement. It was a really difficult time for people in finding meaningful jobs, especially those in rural communities and underserved communities. Our parent company has deployed over 1.6 billion in capital to different businesses across the United States. We've done that by 3-fold debt financing, equity financing, and tax incentivized financing.
Great. Thanks, Shannon. We're excited to have you here. We have Brian Ellenberger of Blue Ventures. Brian, if you want to share a little bit more and introduce yourself.
Sure. Yeah. Again, thanks for having me, Peter. Looking forward to the discussion today. I'm Brian. I'm an investor here at Blue Ventures. We're based technically in the DC area, but really we invest across the US. In regards to Blue and our background, we typically focus on 2 major industry verticals. One is cybersecurity. The other is healthcare, health tech, medical devices. I focus specifically on that industry vertical. So excited for the conversation today. On the healthcare side of things, we really invest in companies that are kind of at seed plus through Series B stages. For us, that means somewhere between about $1 million of ARR up to about 15 million of ARR. Our typical check sizes range somewhere between about 350,000 up to about $1 million plus. And ultimately, here over the next couple of years, we're going to be planning to spin up a large institutional healthcare vehicle as well. And then a couple pieces about how we help portfolio companies post-investment. We do have about 30 operating partners as well. All of them are former Fortune 100 C-level executives and serial entrepreneurs. About a third of them have vast majority of their career experience within the healthcare space. And so, we love to make intros to, industry experts, go-to-market sales channel partners, potential customers as well. And then second piece is, we really love to be able to be active investors, whether that's formally with a board or a board observer seat, great. But, if not, still love to be involved. Couple primary reasons there. One, love to be able to continue to, grow the relationship with the founding team and the management team. And then secondly, if we can help institutionalize our operator knowledge, we see that as a big win. We really want to be able to help companies get past their roadblocks, challenges more efficiently and grow more quickly. I'll pause there, but looking forward to chatting today.
Great. Thanks, Brian. We're excited to have you. And lastly, we have Austin Fagerl of Greenpoint VC. Austin, if you want to introduce yourself.
Sure, and thanks for Shannon and Brian's introductions. I think that we have definitely some overlap, but also a fair amount of representation of different ends of the venture spectrum. So for background, I've been working with Greenpoint for the last couple of years, and Greenpoint is an early stage fund focused on pre-seed and seed primarily. And very rarely we will touch Series A, but we're a little earlier in the life cycle than it sounds like. Shannon and Brian span a broader scope, a stage range. But similarly, we are sector agnostic, and so we will focus on different industries. However, we have specializations in fintech and health tech. And me personally, I come from over a decade of experience at various health tech backgrounds. I've worked in medical devices, hospital finance, and most recently at AWS with our healthcare and life science team. So seen different scale of health tech companies, and have enjoyed investing at the ground floor.
Great. Well, we're really excited to have you all here. So we're gonna, we'll chat for 15 minutes. We'll keep 15, 20 minutes. We'll keep it brief, and then we'll kind of open it up for questions because we have some attendees in the audience, and I'm sure they, and these are all investors here. So I'm sure we'll keep it, very poignant in terms of our questioning here. Brian, you have a resource I wanted you to share first that I really loved when we were chatting, just like that surveys the landscape of health tech. Do you mind just sharing that for a second? I really love this because it kind of really just helps frame like how wide and broad health tech is to help frame our conversation. I don't know if you want to share anything about this or any certain areas that you're focused on or looking at.
Sure. Yeah. So to be honest, we were recently updating our investment thesis in the healthcare space, and so doing a bunch of research, digging online, and came across this resource actually from Gallon Growth. They are a research firm that focuses on the healthcare space, and thought this was interesting and helpful for me to have a discussion with our partners about just again, as you mentioned, Peter, how broad healthcare is. I think there's some pieces in here, such as veterinarian, that might fall a little bit outside of our scope, at least of what we see as healthcare for our fund. But really, kind of amazing to see how many different pieces you can really focus on, and each one of these little nodes, if you will. So, for example, EHR, PHR under the health management solutions up in the left-hand corner, you could find potentially tens, if not hundreds of potential investments within that space. So really just amazing to see here. For us personally, we focus on, I would say, the vast majority of these. I would say there's a few to call out that we won't touch. Medical education being one of them. I'd say some bioinformatics and drug discovery, anything that's kind of pharmaceutical or kind of therapeutics in nature, has a long FDA approval process. Again, just something that we don't have adequate knowledge of to be able to make strong investments in. And so we'll stay out of those areas. And then also personally, just, B2C is an area for Blue that, we just don't have much expertise within. So I don't feel like it would be doing justice to the team that we were investing in if we did so. I'm happy to kind of talk more about it. But Peter, back to you as well.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I just wanted to kind of frame the conversation here. You don't need, yeah, you don't need to keep sharing it, but I appreciate it. We'll definitely distribute that. But I guess I'll start with the news of the day here, or news of the month with Whoop, raising $575 million on, I think it was like a $10 billion valuation. And I think there were some major, what was interesting is that there were a lot of investors in it, who, you had Abbott who got in, Mayo Clinic who got in as well. So clearly, I mean, obviously they're looking to IPO, but it's interesting you have this validation from a lot of these major healthcare players. So, kind of that's an example of multiple market segments playing in. Curious of your reaction to that. I guess my question would be on that. Where do you feel like risk is being mispriced in health tech right now, and how are you underwriting that differently than the market?
Sure. I think you took those words out of my mouth, because I've been excited to read about the Whoop fundraise, and I think that the cap table of who's investing at this round is extremely telling. There's representation, as you said, from different parts of the market, but really implicitly, what I see is these are all the big healthcare incumbents that are all trying to get access to the breadth of patient data that is building with all these health tech wearables. So you see, you didn't mention LeBron and Rory McIlroy also,
There are
writing angel
several
checks,
celebrities involved. Yes.
which in my opinion is almost Whoop's way of trying to encourage the audience and their investors that it's still a performance wearable, whether it is or isn't. I think that the implicit message that I see is as you alluded to, the investor bench is betting that in the near future they will be able to materially adjust their risk within hospitals, within Abbott for medical devices, insurance companies becoming interested in evaluating risk differently using much more than just an annual physicals healthcare data. So I think it's very interesting.
Yeah, I can add on to what Austin said. I think, it's a pure data play, right? So health systems and pharma companies are really trying to get their hands on more personalized data around the patient so they can really understand that 360-degree view of the patient, because if they're not able to do that, they can't really develop targeted therapies that all of these patients would benefit from, right? In Whoop's case, it's really around stress data and recovery, strain, and sleep. And so it's quite interesting when you pair that data set. It's a very unique data set that's deeply vertically integrated. That's their bread and butter. And so when you pair that with other precision health data sets to tell that 360-degree view of this story of the patient, right? It's very interesting. And then you can start asking questions. If you think of on the analytics standpoint, you can start asking questions. What's the correlation with this versus if you pull in genetic data or clinical labs testing results data, the microbiome data, and then nutritional genomic data, so personalized nutrition, right? So how are patients reacting to certain foods based on their whole blueprint of themselves, right? So it's really getting around the perspective of, you look at yourself in the mirror and you understand what exactly you need to live the longest health span possible. And so that, I think it's really exciting. I think it's an outrageous valuation. I do think some of these companies are overpriced, but I'll just leave it at that.
I wasn't going to speak to the fact that they launched on the Chase Sapphire Reserve and Amex Platinum credits in the last 6 months leading up to a 10 billion valuation round, and what that does to prompt up your adoption when you pay for the first full year to every credit card user.
Absolutely. I'll add on one other piece here. Briefly, I'm sure it's going to come up and be a big part of the conversation today, but AI as well. We've been looking at a couple companies specifically that are trying to better understand and diagnose patients, give a lot of time back to providers as well through these insights. And so for me, looking at some of the more academic medical centers that are investors as well, they want access to this data to be able to enrich their AI components that allow doctors to be able to hopefully prescribe better medications. One, two, look at patients, individual, chronic conditions better, and make those diagnoses a little bit better as well. So I think that's a big piece of what we're seeing, at least in the landscape. And to me, those investments through those academic medical centers speak a lot to that as well.
So because you touched on AI, so then my question is kind of what's real versus hype in the AI-enabled health tech space? Where have you seen it actually change outcomes or margins, and are we underestimating or overestimating how quickly healthcare systems will adopt new tech?
Yeah, I can speak a little to that. We just made an investment in a B2B regulatory SaaS company that is accelerating and de-risking MedTech's innovation lifecycle to market. And so what really stood out to me about this company was not only their domain expertise on the regulatory side, but also on the Gen AI side, AI machine learning, and their deep understanding of the statistics that's really the ultimate foundation of being able to build robust computational models that are geared towards specific use cases. And then you have to train that and learn what the value is as more data gets built into the model. And so what this company demonstrated was proof of testing a base case model. They developed it in-house. They didn't use any open source tools. So that would be like ChatGPT, OpenAI, or Claude Anthropic. They built all of their small language models in-house, and then they used both public data and then their own internal data sets in their customers' data to train the model. And obviously that's in a secure environment, HIPAA compliant and SOC 2 certifications. So I'm looking for companies that really are going after critical use cases, critical problems. So this problem is, bringing more, addressing the time it takes to bring medicines to market, the time it takes for the FDA regulatory side to review submissions. So that is an example of a Gen AI company that I've been impressed with. Other companies, and it's just around workflow. So if you're talking about the provider side, how do you reduce the administrative burden on providers with specific indications? So I'm looking at a company right now that's creating the first Gen AI oncologist to help oncologists make sure that their patients are getting the right therapy and are getting the right care in the timely manner. So there's very targeted use cases that are sparking my interest right now.
So I think that a couple of those that Shannon spoke to are ones that immediately came to mind for me, and I see us at an era of sort of teenage maturity with the AI space as it relates to the healthcare and life sciences markets. And what I mean by that is there are a handful of very well developed and established use cases that are gaining significant traction. So for example, and they're addressing major needs. So for example, Shannon spoke to one of the big points in the healthcare provider space is clinician burnout. and an understaffing of healthcare providers, be it doctors and any other necessary staff. And so anywhere that we can reduce clinician burnout with, health scribes, for example, and fail-safe checks for, radiology scans and healthcare imaging is a viable use case. And then on the other side, for life sciences, drug discovery has been one of the leading use cases for GenAI across industries. And so I think that each of those use cases has been very well established, but I think that we're sort of at this next era where we're seeing some exciting new use cases that early stage startups are venturing to the next layer of depth with AI applications. And so namely, I think that the insurance payer space and the claims automation step is really a challenging problem to solve. When I was first out of college, I worked for a consulting firm that helped manage this on behalf of hospitals. And so I know from firsthand experience that it's a complicated process. There are intermediary incumbents that make it increasingly difficult. And so it's understandable why we look in retrospect and this wasn't disrupted right off the bat. However, I think that there are some interesting companies that I saw out of YC's batch last week and have seen in recent months that are really addressing medical billing, revenue cycle management, and other and appeal generation, things that both improve the payer space and the provider space and ultimately lower cost to patients. So those are a couple areas that I'm excited about. And then I would say just one last developing use case is to speak to our previous conversation around the growing sets of patient data, especially from health tech wearables, are now to a point that even the most optimistic doctor that you want to bring all of your 8 Sleep data and Aura and Whoop data and function lab testing, you bring all of this information to your doctor at your once a year visit. If you don't want to handle it yourself and you want them to understand it, it's well more than they can ever understand in a 30-minute or 60-minute session. And so I think that there's a market opportunity where we're seeing some exciting new startups that are trying to make this digestible for providers. So I'm excited to see what's built there. I've seen some that are built into the EHR as, doctor prep for appointments. I think that there's some that are patient facing that also make sense. But very curious to see what's built on these fronts.
I'm going to ask one more question and then we're going to open it up to our audience. Just as a programming note, if anyone has any questions in the interim, they can drop them in the chat as well. And then we will also answer them. But my last question, then I want to open it up here to our audience is just in terms of what's actually getting funded and what specific metrics or proof points that you're looking for that actually get a health tech deal across the line today, and also maybe how has that changed over the last 2 to 3 years?
The one big thing that we're focusing on now, especially with AI, is what's going to make a technology defensible over the next 2 or 3 years as these foundational models are getting better, and also cheaper. I think for us, something that we're looking for with that defensibility piece is, one, for the team, deep domain expertise and, network connections. I think, you're still going to have a piece of the selling equation be those personal relationships, even, dependent on price, right? I think a second piece, at least for us, of what's going to be differentiated is if a company has a unique proprietary data set that they're able to utilize within their AI models, that's going to give unique insights to customers, whether that be payers, providers, patients, any other host of end users within this healthcare ecosystem. For us, that's something that we've been debating a lot about at the partner level, and just how quickly it seems like foundational models are gaining a lot of steam and being able to be trained off of everything from images to revenue cycle management and payer issues. And so that's something that we're taking a big look at here and understanding, again, how can we have that defensible moat for the long term?
Yeah, I can what Brian said. I can also echo the same thing. Some things I would add with the team is it's critically important to have a well-balanced team, and I really look at the intellect of the team and do they understand their strengths and weaknesses, and what are the gaps that they need in order to execute on their next milestone, and who is on their board, their advisors. Do those seats fill the gaps on the team? And is it truly a differentiated product and or service that no one else is solving for, that someone will pay a premium for, right? So at the end of the day, someone has to buy it, right, and pay for it. And so do they have demonstrated value of that? And I also look at, is there a full weighted pipeline? Do they understand the sales cycle timing of the different customers that they're going after? And do they have a clear understanding of the market and their exit strategy? Is it well thought out? What's the likelihood of the three scenarios, for example, that could pan out on the exit side? And then how are they thinking about, de-risking the business? Have they thought that through? So really, it's a balance of all of that. And of course, we look at the financials and is it a reasonable valuation for the business? One thing I'll add for some trends also is on the consumer wellness side. There's some really interesting companies that I'm coming across on the consumer products, where it's really around kind of lymphatic drainage, aromatherapy. There's some interesting companies that are tying in kind of the nutritional aspect with that. And then there's a technical aspect to different consumer products now. For example, looking at a company that's basically taking glycoproteins from an organism from the ocean that helps with eczema, psoriasis patients, and severely dry skin patients. So there's some different applications from the ocean and into the consumer wellness space that I think is really interesting.
Sure, and I can just append something quick there, as I think that Shannon and Brian spoke well to broader questions that we usually look at. But I would say that to present one new perspective from the earlier stage, we are often investing at pre-seed or seed, and I think that the inflection point between those stages is just the first semblance of product market fit. And everybody's trying to convey that they've captured product market fit when they're raising a seed, but I think that it's upon my firm to pressure test how built out that hypothesis is. And so one of the ways that we're looking to pressure test this, given the question that Peter asked, is I think that where you used to be able to have a live demo in 5 or so customers that are each going knee deep, I think that is becoming insufficient, and we'd rather see 2 or 3 customers where you are fully owning end-to-end process and not just going knee or waist deep with several, because I think that's a known critic of AI tools, is that they can marginally improve, but they can't own end-to-end. And so I think that is really something that we want to see as an early stage signal, that enables us to really foresee and foresee you owning the end-to-end process without having to, white glove service it.
Yeah, that's very valuable and very interesting. Makes perfect sense to me. We have several investor guests here as well who have been listening in virtually. Would love to open the floor here if anyone has any questions specifically for our investor panelists. Don't be shy.
So can I chime in here?
Please.
So just an open question for everyone right now. I think we're at an era in healthcare where, there's a lot more awareness around how the system is designed and how the current system has not been fully, keeping the patient at the center of the equation. I think there's a lot more awareness around the payer landscape. Um, I am seeing some companies completely re-change how healthcare is designed. So, for example, cash pay to see doctors, being able to reach rural communities, underserved communities, not having to go through the payers to get their medicine, to see their doctor, specialists. So I'm curious what everyone's thoughts are with that.
Sure, I can share some thoughts. I don't know if it's to us or to the audience.
Either. It can be either. It's an
Everyone.
open-ended at this point.
Sure. So I think that this does somewhat speak to another area that I'm excited about that we haven't spoken to here, but in July of 25, with the Big Beautiful Bill launching, it included one constituent that enabled many health plans to be HSA eligible for the first time. And as a result, the market of HSA spend dollars that has been already growing at a 16% year-over-year clip is now on pace to grow between 30 and 40% for the next 5 years. And I think that that creates a very interesting market opportunity across different healthcare sub-industries. So, for example, you're seeing opportunities like Flex and TruePay are A16 and FirstMark Capital's investments in this space. And those companies, I've seen Flex now enable my gym membership to be paid by HSA benefits. And, their whole thesis is let's enable consumers to understand where they can spend their HSA dollars where they may not have previously, and take a 3% share of that. So I think that again, it's similar to what you're saying, where it's democratizing access to enable users to spend on their healthcare in the way that they want, and it helps the entire healthcare ecosystem as it drives more preventative care.
Greetings, everyone. This is Emery with Frequency. I have a question in regards to the HSA dollars. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah, please
so
go ahead.
theoretically, if you had an app that was an AI that was focused on health and wellness, because I like that what you just spoke about, Austin, about gym memberships, could theoretically that app, could they pay for a subscription on that app if it's built around health and wellness?
I think that there are, well, let's see, there are very specific government regulated use cases that can be HSA or FSA eligible. However, I think that the general thesis here is the use cases are much more broad than the average citizen is aware. And so, it's hard to speak to your example because it could be broad, and I won't speak to every specific on it, but generally, yes. I think that when people think of physical therapy, behavioral health, CVS supplements, my protein powder, my gym membership, it's much more broad than just your doctor's appointments. And so I think that in addition to patient awareness, I think that also the underlying fintech infrastructure is insufficiently built to accept this demand. And so there's really market opportunities left and right on the heels of this tailwind.
Thank you.
Yeah, great question. Keep them coming. Anyone else has any other questions for this panel?
A quick question. I think, Shannon, it was you who talked about, hi, this is Kendra Tatarsky. I work at Cerity Partners Ventures. We work with corporations to help them set up and then manage their venture funds. I think it was you, Shannon, that talked about the data aspect of the Whoop deal. And data is, everyone loves to talk about data, but I'm curious how, everyone on the call or the three speakers think about data and the obstacles to the usability of the data. So especially in the age of AI, it's, everyone wants more data. We need more data to train everything. But data alone, I don't think is enough. It's really the actionability of the data, particularly when I think of like stress data or like data off of a Whoop. So just curious your thoughts on how that's being actioned in the various settings that you're investing in, and also just seeing what, broadly.
No, I love that question, Kendra. Thank you for that. Yeah, I look at the cybersecurity side in the use of data. I think that's extremely important is who owns the data, right? Like who owns the patient data. And I really think that eventually, at least I hope we as patients can own our own data and then we can decide who to sell it to, and we could make money off of our own data. So just an idea that I heard from a founder that I came across. I think the data sovereignty side is really interesting, as well as, blockchain being able to, track the origination of, where a piece of information comes from and all the channels it goes through, who, gets that receiving piece of the data. I think we're in a time where cybersecurity market is really bullish right now, and there's a lot happening. There's a lot of hacking happening, especially on the healthcare side. So I look at the ethics behind the founder's use of data, and I also look at the moat around the tech. Like, it's not just the data, but do they have other products or services that they're stacking in their business model to de-risk the business model for us as investors, right? So it's not just relying on one source of revenue stream. So I look at that. And I just look at the transparency behind, the service. So I'm not a Whoop owner, like, because the terms and conditions. And that's the thing with these AI companies today is they're constantly updating the terms and conditions, and we as consumers need to accept it in order to keep using the products or services. But there's not enough awareness around the transparency, what's safe and what's not, right?
I think that one analogy that's useful to append to that response is I think it's very interesting the consideration of can Tesla as a car manufacturer also be an auto insurance provider? And are you as a consumer, theoretically, whether you're a Tesla owner or not, okay with them raising your premium because you brake too quickly into red lights? And just because the data's there, are you willing to consent for them to aggregate this data and take action based off of everything that they know? Or if they have a camera in the car, hey, we saw you text more than the average person in your car when you're the driver, therefore we're going to raise your rates. Similarly, if with the breadth and depth that we now have access to information from Whoop, Aura, Garmin, Apple Watch, etc., I think that the real market opportunity exists for who can package all of this information in a concise and actionable manner.
That's a big piece that we're focusing on as well, is can you have the data all be on a centralized, platform, one, but two, how do you get all of that data to be on the same time scale, right? So all of these wearables track your data at different intervals, and how do you essentially clean and synthesize that data to make sure it's digestible effectively by these AI models as well? So just to add on a little bit of additional information there.
If I were to only put on my Oura Ring after I have a couple drinks and then report to the doctor at the end of the year, they would say your health is in terrible shape, and it would not be an accurate sample size. And so I also understand why healthcare providers are skeptical based off of the intake mechanism.
But in that case, that's a longitudinal question, which the data will specifically call out. You're only using it certain times. So I think I do think there's a opportunity to help, and I think one of you alluded to this earlier, help healthcare practitioners and the ecosystem think about the application and data use differently. I definitely feel like we're seeing a shift from the old guard and the old way of thinking about things. I'm curious what others on the call think as well. But the longitudinality of the data is going to be really important for sure.
Yeah, if you think of the healthcare analytics landscape just as a whole, right? You have originators of data, and then you have aggregators of data. And so really understanding those two players is important. And then asking yourself, what's the missing piece of data that the market needs in order to provide more value to all the healthcare stakeholders? So I have that framework in my mind when I look at companies in this space.
We have time for about 2 or 3 more questions if anyone wants to ask or chime in here for our panel.
Hi, this is Michael Camp. I'd like to ask a quick question. Unfortunately, my camera is not working on my one computer, so it's shooting across the room. Apologies. Would it be better if I fix the camera and come back?
No, go ahead. Feel free to, we can hear you just fine.
Okay, great. It's kind of a two-part question. I'm not sure really where to begin. I actually run a managing partner of a small pre-seed fund. We're actually in the wind down stage, no further capital available for deployment, but that has led me to several of the startups that we were looking at prior to. It's a grant program with the state of Ohio, so that's why the program's coming to a twilight. But I have a couple deals that we've been working with, and I've stayed on to just mentor and advise. And one is, I think, a pretty exciting health tech space, a company that I would probably be looking at seriously for an early stage pre-seed investment. But the interest for us is that it's a data play to a large extent. Out of Mercy Hospital, the IP was required on 50 to 55,000 patients that they've been working with for about 20 years. A lot of great in-depth data, not just on demographic profile, but lots of the actual health data and transition data using certain services. So they are in the process. So what I wanted to go back to was Austin's point about product market fit. They've been using that system for a long time. They're going to build the front end administrative software side, but so there's good product market fit in terms of how the tech has been used, the AI and the tech, but they haven't yet tested their own ability to build a integrated software that monitors that and does patient tracking and all that. That's what they're doing now. We're focused on for their fundraise. But if they do that, they have a pilot. They've been asked to do a pilot of about 1,000 patients. They want to stay focused on being the software provider, not the administrator. And so they're looking at partnering with intermediaries. Would it be the same to you as an investor if they came to you showing a great pilot program that they ran on 1,000 patients for 6 months with the Veterans Administration or something like that, with great outcomes, great performance and all that, as if they were partnered with an administrator or another third-party integrator who could actually administer that, or that they build out the competencies internal that allows them to be an administrator slash provider, intermediary, if that would be necessary. I'm not sure how to coach them in this process on the pilot. I mean, they're literally staring the pilot right now, and they either go find a partner to do it, or they build out the competencies to do it, which would take more capital, more time. And just wondered your perspective on that.
Yeah. I mean, I think that partner scaled growth can be an absolutely great thing, and it can also be a limiting factor. So there's no blanket answer. But what I would say is from our lens, we would quickly be looking to evaluate how scalable is this motion when you apply it to 5, 10, or 100 different customers. And, if the pilot is done with a single lighthouse customer, you start to wonder, is this your best friend from home's dad's company? And is that the reason he's getting everybody to adopt this? Is this, plenty of other ways that this could be disproven. But I also think that if the partner is fit to scale, that they are ready to take on, a similar scale of, increased customers as you move from one customer to 10 to 100, or if you demonstrate that there are ample opportunities for different similar partnerships that can bring you to 100 if that partner can't quickly scale to that level. I think that the challenge is sometimes finding the right partner fit, because if the company that you're advising can go out and raise venture capital that allows them to ramp up their product roadmap from a 5-year to a 2-year life cycle, does the partner also have similar funding to handle that rate of growth?
Yeah, fair enough. Thank you. It's a nice way to think about it. It's the partner competencies. Do they add or detract in some way from the upside potential? Sure. Any other thoughts?
Yeah, definitely agree with Austin. I'll add on a little bit more from just like a later stage perspective. Something that we would look at if they're approaching, call it $1 million of ARR, is how long did it take for them to get there, right? What was the velocity of the number of customers that they're able to add onto the platform or the service, and how quickly were they able to do that, and also how quickly did they grow revenue at each of those sites too. So I think speaking to Austin's point of, does the partner have the same mentality of growth that the startup wants to approach, is a key indicator for us, looking longer term, when really we're looking at velocity of growth and consistency over that period of time.
Yeah, the only thing I'll add is just making sure it's a solution to a true problem. And is it only a problem for a selected few providers, or do they have a deep funnel that they can execute on? And really the timing of that, right? Because each one's going to have a different sales cycle time. And does the team really understand who the buyers are and at each of those potential leads?
Great. Yeah, thank you. Those are great thoughts. And great things to consider with the team. I think their initial one of the things that has them in a bit of a uncertain decision is that they were focused on those intermediate administrators as their exit opportunity, that this would be a software play that they would pick up. And so when they did that, they're like, oh, how much pressure do we put on ourselves to pick the right one now to help us do this pilot, versus just pick one that would be competent and get through. But you're giving a lot more color and context to that decision and the importance of that decision. So I really appreciate that perspective, and can coach them accordingly. So great. Again, Michael Camp, if we get a chance to talk later about this one, I might introduce you to them if and when they're ready. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thanks,
happy
Michael.
to.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Go ahead, Shannon.
Oh, sorry. No, I was just saying, I'm happy to talk to the company, Michael, and also talk offline more about the situation.
Great. No, I'm happy to do that. I got to be a little sensitive because the pilot's under review right now with the potential contractor, and it's big. It's almost a $15 million pilot just for the pilot. So
That's great.
they're focused on that, as they should be. But this other question is lingering, who that partner will be. So yeah, that might take you up on that. Thank you, Shannon.
Yeah, and we'll share everyone's LinkedIn's as well afterwards. And we have probably time for one more question if anyone wants to ask our panel. Is there anything that we didn't touch upon? I guess I'm asking my panelists or the audience. Is there anything we didn't touch upon, or any burning questions, or anything that we probably should brief before we close out today? I know that's a loaded question.
We've made it 54 minutes and nobody said the word peptides.
Well, a lot of interesting
All day
things in the longevity
discussed.
space. Thoughts on peptides to the panelists?
I guess I can talk to that. I think the supplement space is interesting. Like if you just think of what's happening in healthcare right now, if it's really going to be changed to keep the patient at the center, we will eventually be healthier, right? Pharmaceutical companies will have to shift towards nutraceuticals, and really the ag tech space, precision agriculture technology, will need to be producing a significant amount of crops, right, that are high quality for nutraceuticals. So I think it's interesting space. I haven't come across a pure peptide company, but I would be interested in learning more if you have.
I've reviewed a few decks that are early stage peptide membership companies and so forth, and I think I'm not overly bullish on those companies being able to overtake the likes of Superpower, Hims, Hers, Roe, etc. That likely will take a big share of the market once they clear regulatory tape. But I do think that there's a there are interesting underlying infrastructure plays that could be possible that we have reviewed.
Austin, Brian, any thoughts on peptides?
Probably a space that we focus on, so I'm just not knowledgeable enough to speak to it.
I mean, I would just say on a high level, we started off our call with discussion points around health tech wearables and the consumer behavior changing in recent years towards wanting to own their own outcome and trending away from legacy healthcare providers being the only source of health truth. And so I think that this is a logical extension, but I do think that if you continue on this trend, we either have already passed or will soon pass some point where everybody becoming their own doctor and WebMD being your own doctor is not suitable for the broader population. So I think it's too early to comment, but I think everybody's forming their opinion on if we've already swung too far or if that's soon to come. But I certainly think it's interesting to see the clear market demand.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I want to thank everyone for all their insightful questions and comments, and for the panelists attending today. Before we depart, I do want to just give a short plug to Demo Day, Happy Wellness Demo Day, which is happening on June 4th as part of New York Tech Week. We're really excited about it. It's going to be, we have 2 kind of semi-annual showcases that we're doing. We're going to feature 10 really innovative companies. We expect Demo Day to be the most concentrated gathering of wellness capital ever assembled in a single room. We're going to be at the Gerald Lynch Theater at John Jay College, gorgeous theater here in Midtown Manhattan on 59th and 10th, I think, on Thursday, June 4th. We have, like I said, it's going to be kind of a Shark Tank style event. We have 10 companies presenting, and you, the audience, alongside our VIP judges, get to decide who the winner is. So it's going to be a very kind of fun, fast-paced event. There'll be some networking as well before and after. So I'm going to put the link in the chat here. We have a Partiful link that you can use to sign up and register. It's complimentary for our investor members, and it's kind of a first come first served basis. So once we hit capacity, that's it. But really excited to bring our community together to learn about some really innovating startups. With that being said, we're going to close out. We're going to share, we're going to distribute this recording as well. And we will also include Brian, Shannon, and Austin's LinkedIn's. And so, we encourage people to reach out to them, connect after the call if there are more conversations that need to be had. And again, I just really want to thank Shannon, Brian, and Austin for their insights and expertise on this topic today.
Thanks for hosting.
Thanks for having us.
Peter.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
My pleasure. Thanks for everyone attending, and we will be in touch soon. Have a lovely Thursday.